I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 184, How to Process Your Emotions. Hello, my lady. If you have a spouse that is struggling with a pornography problem, then you are in the right place. My name is Jolene Wynn, and I am a life coach, a member of the LDS faith, and the wife of a former porn addict. And in this podcast, I am going to teach you how to change the way that you are affected by your husband's choices. We can't change him, but what we can do is change the way that you respond when he makes the decisions that he does. I'm going to teach you how to manage your brain, how to process all of the emotions that seem so overwhelming to you so that you can finally live a life where you aren't living in fear of triggers and relapses. And by learning how to manage your mind and process your emotions, you are no longer going to be running on an emotional roller coaster, but you are going to start feeling so much more in control of your life no matter what your husband is doing. And I'm going to teach you all of that on this podcast. I can't wait to get started with you, and I'm so glad that you are here. I promise you, you're in the right place. Good morning, my ladies. How are you? I feel great today. I'm actually super excited to be talking to you guys about this today. I love talking about our feelings, and most of the time on the podcast, I just talk about our thoughts, and those are great. But today I'm really excited to talk about our feelings because next week is the very beginning. 1 week from today, starting Monday, November 27th, is day one of the Becoming Unbreakable course that I am teaching inside my program, and I am so excited about it. It is a live training that I am doing, a 5-day live training that starts next Monday, and it goes Monday through Friday, so it's November 27th through December 1st. Every day at 11 a.m. Eastern inside my coaching program, I am doing a live workshop of how to process your emotions. And I'm calling it Becoming Unbreakable. And I did a bonus podcast on this just a couple episodes ago. You can go back and listen to it. But the thing that I've been thinking about, the reason that I wanted to teach this course in this way, this is something that I have been teaching inside my coaching program. I work with my clients one-on-one to do this, but I wanted to revamp it and I wanted to teach it in a different way. And I have never taught it this way before. And I really want to encourage you guys to join my program and come do this with me, because this is the skill that I cannot teach you on a podcast. I can talk to you, and I'm going to talk to you about it today, and I'm going to teach it to you. But there's a difference between hearing it and actually putting it into practice. And putting it into practice is the thing that will change your life. Learning about this skill intellectually and then actually applying it are two very different things. This is the main difference between the podcast and my coaching program, is that in the podcast, you learn intellectually, you learn theoretically, and maybe you can start trying to implement some of this stuff on your own. But inside my coaching program is where we really apply it. And I help you apply it to your specific thoughts, your specific situation and circumstances. And that is what actually creates the change and the transformation in your life that you're looking for, is the application of it into your own life. That's when you start to really see things change. So in this course, this 5-day live training that I am doing starting next week, I am going to be teaching emotions and processing in a way that I've never done it before, and I cannot wait. And I'm also going to be doing a lot of one-on-one processing with each woman that is there. This is why it's only being taught inside my coaching program, because I want it to be something that people are fully committed to. You can't come passively, half-heartedly wanting to get through things. We're not there. Okay, ladies, it's time to actually commit to healing. And committing to healing is the best thing that you could do. It is the best news that you could ever give me, is that you are fully committed, because I'm fully committed to you. I'm fully committed to your healing. And it's time, ladies, to give yourself permission to let all that go. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to do that today. So in this course that I'm teaching next week, I will be working with you one-on-one. And it's kind of like riding a bike, okay? So I can sit here and I can talk to you guys about riding a bike and how to ride a bike. It's like learning in a book. You can look and you can read and you can see pictures of how to ride a bike. But until you actually get on the bike, that's when everything starts to make sense. That's when it starts to click. And until you keep doing it, you're going to fall off. So the course next week is like me holding onto the back of the bike so that you don't have to do it by yourself, so that you learn how to balance, so that you can get your muscles engaged in the right way, so that you can learn how to ride a bike the right way the very first time. And that way you have someone who can tell you, oh, hey, here's where you're doing it wrong. Here's this thing. Let's try this, tweak this. And you'll be able to go so much faster, so much quicker, and you won't have to do it by yourself. And you'll have people cheering you on the entire way. So that's the main difference, is that when you are learning on this podcast, when you're just listening, which is a great thing to do, but ladies, I'll be frank, it's not enough for most of you, okay? Listening to the podcast is a beautiful step, but it's time to take it one step forward. And if you find this podcast helpful, imagine how much more you could progress if you actually came and worked with me and joined my program and we coached and I was able to work with you on this. Your progress would skyrocket, and that's what I want for you. So if you are ready to if you're ready to stop feeling triggered, if you're ready to stop having emotional breakdowns every time you have sex, if you're tired of not going to the beach, if you are tired of dealing with triggers, if you're tired of living with fear of relapses, if you are ready to move on, then come join today. Sign up today so that you don't forget about it over the holidays. Trust me, there will be plenty of stuff emotionally that comes up during the holidays that you are going to want help with. So come join today so that you will be all automatically enrolled in this course for next week. You will also get access to my whole program. This is taught inside my program. So you join, you sign up, you are in for life. You have lifetime access. So even if you only have the ability to come for this next week, sign up today. This one skill is the skill that is going to change your life. So let's dive in and let's talk about it, okay? Let's talk about how to process your feelings. First of all, let's do a quick rundown of the model. The self-coaching model is the model that I use, one of the main coaching tools that I use in my program to help my clients. And here's what it looks like. If you were looking at a piece of paper, you could write down CTFAR in a line, okay? In a vertical line, not a horizontal line. Starts with C. C stands for circumstances, okay? Circumstances are the things that happen in the world around us. They're facts, okay? Circumstances are things that we cannot control. These are other people. Maybe it's the weather, okay? These are things that are outside of us, and they are neutral, meaning they don't have a scientific charge, okay? Like think of science, positive and negative charges. This is a neutral charge. Circumstances are inherently neutral, okay? They are not automatically positive or negative. And this is very good news because what makes them positive or negative are our thoughts. That's the T in the model. It goes C and then T, okay? Our thoughts about our circumstances are what make our circumstances seem positive or negative, okay? Our circumstance, so maybe your circumstance is my husband watches pornography, right? You can't even necessarily say my husband is addicted to pornography. If you want to put that in the circumstance, you can, although the word addicted could be one that is up for interpretation. Some people might say addiction, some people might say something else. So the circumstance would be my husband watches pornography. And then your thought could be, I'm not good enough. What does that mean about me? I hate that he does that. I feel terrible about myself when he does, right? What is he thinking when he's with me, when he's watching pornography, right? We have a whole bunch of thoughts about our husband watching pornography, that we're not okay with it, that it's wrong, that it means something terrible about him, all of these things, that it means something terrible about us. We have all of these thoughts about the circumstance, okay? And our thoughts are what are positive or negative. Some people have a lot of really positive thoughts about pornography. They think it's great. They do it with their spouse. A lot of people think that it's a beautiful expression of sexuality. There are so many different thoughts about pornography. So there are some that could be positive. Most of us listening to this podcast have typically more negative thoughts about pornography, that it's not good. We don't think that it's great. We don't agree with it. We don't think you should watch it, all of those kinds of things, okay? So it's your thoughts about the circumstance that then create feelings. Okay, our thoughts are what create our feelings. This is what I teach you all the time on the podcast. This is why it's so crucial to become aware of what we're thinking, because it creates how we feel. okay? Our feelings or our emotions, I use those two interchangeably, are just vibrations in our body. That's it. I'm going to dive more into that in just a minute, okay? Feelings are just vibrations in your body, okay? But feelings are very important because they are what drive our actions, okay? CTF, F is for feelings, A is for actions, okay? Our feelings are what drive our actions in our life. Everything that we do or don't do in our life is because of how we feel in the moment or because of how we think we will feel if we do that thing, okay? Right? If I'm stressed, I eat, okay? I think that if I eat, I'll feel better, right? If I'm feeling lonely, then I call my friend or I binge watch Netflix. Or if I'm feeling motivated, then I go to the gym, right? Every action that we take is because of how we feel or because of how we think we will feel, right? We do things like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym because I think I'll feel better about myself if I do, right? Maybe I'm not feeling great about myself now, but I think that if I do go to the gym, then I'll feel better, right? You guys with me? So every action that we take is driven by our feelings. Our feelings drive our actions, and our actions are what create our results. R is for results. CTFAR. Circumstances, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. The R is the results that create in our life. And our result could be that we have a certain number of kids. It could be the amount of money that we're making. The result could be that I'm not happy in my marriage. The result could be that I am emotionally limited in my capacity, right? The result could be that I weigh X amount, okay? The results in our life are something that it's the culmination of all the actions that we take and all the actions that we don't take. Okay, so the results are a product of our action and inaction. Okay, which inaction is actually an action. Okay, so we have the model here. What I'm going to focus on today and what I'm going to be teaching next week how to do and walking you through it and doing it with you is the feeling line. Okay, so there's the circumstances, the thoughts, which we do a ton in this podcast, managing your mind. Okay, the feeling line is what I'm going to talk about today. And the feeling line is the most important, ladies, because again, this is what drives everything that you do or don't do, which is what creates the result you have in your life. So if you're not happy with where you are right now, and I'm going to guess that you're not thrilled or not 100% okay with where you are, because you're listening to this podcast, then this is what I want you to focus on. This is the key that you're missing. This is the key that most life coaches skip over, that most coaches skip over, that even a lot of therapists skip over. Traditional talk therapy, this is why there's a whole new slew of therapies that are coming out, because traditional therapy is more of talking. It's more like a venting session. It's enough to just get it off of your chest, but it doesn't actually work through the emotional trauma underneath, okay? And that's what this is all about, okay? Processing your emotions is a skill, an actual skill that you can learn. But here's what we typically do with our emotions. Typically, with our emotions, we do one of three things. Number one, we distract ourselves from them, right? When was the last time you felt bored? I don't even remember. Although, no, I do remember. It was yesterday during church. Okay, I felt a little bored and I couldn't distract myself because I was sitting next to my daughter and I was like, all right, I'm not going to get my phone out during church. That would be ridiculous and rude. And so I didn't do that. So I just sat there and I felt bored. And it had been a long time since I felt bored because usually I distract myself with my phone. Like, I think about waiting in a doctor's office. That's when I feel the most bored in my life, is times when I've had to wait in a doctor's office. And yet they always have magazines. And now we have our phones. We have become so accustomed to being constantly stimulated intellectually that we aren't even used to feeling bored, okay? We distract ourselves from emotions that we don't like to feel. Whatever that emotion is, it could be loneliness, it could be boredom. This is why your husband watches pornography. It's because he's distracting himself from whatever it is that he's feeling that he doesn't want to feel, right? We buffer. I've talked about this before on the podcast. You can go back and listen to the podcast called Buffering. That's what this is. Buffering is just a way of distracting ourselves from what we're feeling. And that's one of the main things that we do. The problem with that is that it doesn't actually work. It doesn't actually make the emotion go away. And now we've added something on top of it that's creating another result. So for example, with pornography, now your husband has added an addiction to pornography or a compulsion for pornography and all the negative stuff that comes with that on top of whatever it is he's trying to avoid feeling. Right? The distraction. So it doesn't actually make the emotion go away. We're just trying to distract ourselves from it and often end up creating a much worse situation. Okay? One of the other things that we do is we avoid it. We just try to pretend that it's not there. Okay? But it doesn't actually make it go away. So let me give you guys an example. I gave this example the other day when I was on a call. And I said, one of the things we try to do is we try to avoid that it's even happening. And this is what that's like internally, right? We try to avoid the emotion. We just try to pretend that it's not there. We try to block it, okay, just from our awareness. And yet it's still there and it's painfully obvious, right? Here's what that looks like. Have you guys ever been in a room where there was like some kind of altercation or tension going on between two people and you're kind of just like, okay, do we acknowledge this? I feel like I can't acknowledge it. I just kind of want to pretend like it's not there, right? I can think of multiple family reunions where this has happened. My brother calls this the incident. I want you guys to look out for it this week at Thanksgiving. Okay, my brother calls it the incident. It's like his goal in life is to not be the incident at the family reunion. He's like, there's going to be one. His goal in life is to not be a part of it. Okay, but there's always an incident. There's always some kind of conversation or tense interchange, and everyone else in the room is like, are we acknowledging that this happened? Should we just pretend like it didn't? Like, don't make eye contact. I'm just going to look over here. That's what avoiding our emotions is like. It doesn't mean that we aren't aware of the emotion. We're aware. We're totally aware. We're highly aware that it's there. We're just trying to pretend like it's not. And we just try to avoid it. We just try to pretend like it's fine, and then we just keep going. The problem, again, is that it doesn't actually go away and then it festers, okay? That's what happens. When you try to avoid an emotion, it festers. And that leads me to number 3. What we typically try to do is we try to suppress. Suppress and avoid are kind of the same, so we'll keep them in the same. Suppress, when they start to fester, what we're trying to do is we try to shove it down. This is the beach ball analogy that I always give, right? It's like trying to shove a beach ball underwater. And it is tough, ladies, to shove a beach ball underwater. We're trying to avoid it, trying to suppress it, trying to pretend like it doesn't exist. And yet it does, and it makes us exhausted trying to avoid that emotion. Right? So this is when we just kind of try to pretend like we aren't as affected by our husband's pornography problem as we are. We try to pretend on Christmas for the family that it's fine. We try to just pretend like we aren't slowly dying inside when he says, hey, let's go on a cruise, just you and me together. And you're like, yeah, as long as it's in the Arctic and everyone is wearing burqas so that I don't have to see other women in bikinis, right? But yet well, I should be fine with this, or I feel like I should be past this, and maybe it's not that big a deal, and intellectually I know it has nothing to do with me, and yet all of this emotion comes flooding to the surface. When we try to just shove that down and avoid it and suppress it, that's when it starts to fester. It's like boiling water underneath the surface. I'm using so many analogies today. Okay, stay with me. It's like boiling water in a tea kettle. Okay, the water is still boiling in the tea kettle, even if that little flap on the tea kettle is closed. When you try to suppress it, the longer you try to suppress and avoid it, the more it's going to boil, the water gets hotter, and eventually the pressure inside makes the tea kettle pop and all the steam comes out and it makes that high-pitched screeching sound. And that's kind of like what happens emotionally inside of us. And here's the thing, suppressing your emotion is actually a response that your brain does in order to keep you alive. Okay, this is a response that's actually really good. It's kept you alive for a really long time. The problem with this is that once you get to a point where your goal is to no longer be alive, then we have to do something different. This gives us the ability to shove down and power through. This gives us the ability to find out about our husband's pornography problems, know that he's been lying to us for the last 20 years, and shove it down and power through and still get your kids to school. That's what this enables you to do. It's a great thing. However, the goal for your brain with this is to just keep you alive, which is where all of you are. Congratulations. But all of us want to do more than just be alive, because being alive isn't the only goal. Some of us would like to be alive and not be miserable. Some of us would like to be alive and actually like our husbands again. Some of us would actually like to be alive and not carry around the weight of all of the emotional baggage of the last 20 years of lies. Right? You guys with me? And if that's you, then I want you guys to listen up, because this is for you, what I'm going to talk to you guys about. Okay? So normally what we do is we distract ourselves from our emotion, we avoid them and suppress them, or number 3, we react to them. Okay? This is what we typically think of as processing, right? We cry, or we yell, or we hit, or we go for a run. One of my favorite things to do to react to anxiety, when I have a lot of anxiety, one of the things that my brain wants to do rather than process it is go for a run. I have a lot of excess energy and I want to do something physical. I want to, like people call it, burn off the energy. That's where this comes from, is the emotion that you're feeling gives you a lot of physical energy. Maybe your adrenaline is pumping, and so you want to use that excess energy, but it's more of a reaction to it than it is processing it. And I'm going to tell you guys the difference in a minute, okay? So reacting to our emotion is not processing. Most of the time, women think that they're processing their emotion if they cry, okay? Now, there might be some crying while you process an emotion, but crying isn't processing emotion. Does that make sense? Reacting to an emotion is when we just take that split second off the top and it feels like we almost have no control. If this is why people say they have anger problems, right? They have anger management problems. They're not talking about the emotion itself. They're talking about their reaction to the emotion, which they feel like they don't have control over. And what they learn how to do is have control over it, because they learn about what it is and how to have control over it, because it's just something that's happening inside of you. And that's what I want to teach you guys how to do, is how to manage not just your mind, but also your emotions. And again, this is so crucial, because everything that we do or don't do is because of how we feel or how we think we will feel. And everything that we do or don't do creates where we are in our life. So if where you are in your life is that you're still getting triggered every year on the same holiday, or you can't even think about your anniversary, or you can't look at your wedding ring, or every time he goes to kiss you, you have an intense reaction of fear, then this is for you, okay? All it means is that there's some emotion that hasn't been processed yet. And you guys are in luck, because I'm going to tell you what that looks like today. And next week, I'm going to teach you how to do it and walk you through how to do it, okay? Here's the other option that I want to offer for you guys for your emotions, okay? Remember, again, we mostly distract, avoid, and suppress, or we react to our emotions. But there's a fourth option that nobody's ever taught you how to do, which is process your emotions, okay? Processing your emotions looks like this. It looks like sitting exactly where you are, in your chair, in your closet, on the floor, and allowing the vibrations in your body to be felt. That's it. Okay? It is not complex. It's very, very simple, but it's very hard to do, especially on your own when you've never done it before, for so many reasons. One of which is that our brain is very resistant to emotions. This is why we have our logical system and our emotional system. We have what's going on in our head and then what's going on in our body. And our emotions are what's going on in our body. And yet when we let our brain, our primitive brain, run the show, then it's going to want to avoid the emotions. It doesn't want the emotions to happen. Again, because your brain, your primitive brain, is wired to avoid pain. And this is wonderful. It's kept you alive for a very long time. Great. However, when we have experiences that we have thoughts about that create a lot of negative emotion, our brain wants to avoid it because it thinks that we might die. So our brain, our primitive brain, when it is running, wants to avoid all of the emotion: anxiety, fear, grief, doubt, despair, worthlessness, not enough, all of those emotions, rejection, betrayal, all of those emotions, that emotional trauma that came up with your husband's pornography problem that keeps coming up every time you get triggered, that is the emotion your brain doesn't want to feel. So it shoves it down, okay? What I learned how to do and what I have mastered and turned into this skill and what I want you guys to practice doing is learning how to sit with it and allow it, okay? Now, what that looks like is every emotion that we feel feels different in our body physically, right? Grief feels very different than anxiety. Grief is heavy and it's dark and it sits in your midsection, maybe in the bottom of your stomach. And anxiety, on the other hand, is very high energy. Your adrenaline is pumping, your heart is pounding, your face might get a little flushed. You can feel the energy of the emotion, right? Very high energy. And those feel different in your body physically, okay? So every emotion that we feel has a different physical vibration. And processing your emotion looks like sitting down and feeling and experiencing that emotion physically in your body and then letting it go. Our brain has so much resistance to this. And I've talked a lot about this on this podcast in all the episodes, okay? Again, like I just said, it's wired to avoid wired to avoid pain. And so it wants to avoid emotional pain at all costs, which is why you have to learn how to be in charge of your brain in order to mandate it to feel this emotion. But you also have to do it in such a way that it's not forced. I was talking to a client on the call last time. She was like, oh my gosh, can't we just kick this emotional bucket over and have it be done with? And I said, yes, except that that's a sneaky little resistance that your brain is having. Your primitive brain is saying, all right, fine, I'm willing to do it, but can we make it as fast as possible? Okay, and that's just a little bit of resistance. That's just your brain saying, all right, I'm going to feel it, but I'm not happy about it, and I don't want to do it for any longer than I absolutely have to. And that is going to be a little bit of a way that your brain is resisting whatever emotion is coming up. Because if it comes up and it's taking longer than your brain thinks it should, then it's just going to want to suppress it and ignore it and keep powering through. Does that make sense? You guys with me on that? So the way that I like to describe it is that every emotion that we feel, it's like we have these different buckets of emotion inside of us. Okay, we have a bucket for joy and a bucket for worthlessness and a bucket for despair and distrust and rejection. And over time, all of the thoughts that we think keep adding to these emotional buckets. And when you don't know how to process the emotion, then the buckets just get more full and more full and more full until eventually they start to overflow. Okay, this is when we react to it in a way that we don't like. This is when, everything goes to pot. This is when, you cut someone off in traffic and that's the last straw. And this is when you have an emotional breakdown and you just can't do it anymore, right? And then you let off just enough steam. Remember that tea kettle? You let off just enough steam to put the cap back on, shove it back down, and keep powering through. The problem with this is that when you aren't actually processing that emotion, it just keeps refilling. Okay. And then we are not only dealing with a full bucket, we're dealing with all of the damage that comes from the flood of the overflow, right? Are you guys with me? It's like we have a full bathtub that has now leaked onto the floor and through the ceiling and down into the downstairs guest room. That's what happened to me this summer. Okay. Our pipes were not connected correctly in our new house, and I took a bath and it just leaked through the ceiling and onto my guest room bed. That's what happened this summer, okay? That's what happens with our emotional buckets when we don't know how to drain them. Processing your emotions is like going in and scooping it out intentionally, a little bit at a time, until it's completely empty. And then you don't have to carry it around. This is how it's possible to live without triggers. Because right now, what's happening is there's a circumstance and then you have a thought about it and it triggers this full, overflowing emotional bucket. Okay? So this is how you can live without triggers, is when you learn how to process your emotions and you go in and you scoop out that bucket, one little scoop at a time, intentionally. Eventually that bucket is empty. So you don't have to carry around all of that emotional baggage, which is just creating more suffering. And it means there's nothing left to trigger. Now, what I am not saying is that then this means that you're going to be totally happy that your husband's addicted to pornography and you're totally fine with it and it's all been fine. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you don't have to carry around all of the emotional pain from the last however long. You don't have to. And does that mean that it might still hurt if he does it again? Yes, it probably will. I choose to not be okay with my husband watching pornography, which I know means that if he ever does, I'm going to feel negative emotion because I choose to think thoughts about it that are, I'm not okay with it, okay? And I don't think he should do it. So I'm going to feel some negative emotion. But if that happens again, all I'm going to feel is the negative emotion that comes up in that moment, not all the years of negative emotion that I've been carrying around. Does this make sense? And I also don't have to be afraid of it because I know that if it happens, I know exactly what to do. That is how I can confidently face anything that's going to come up in my life. This is the skill that I have honed in, especially over the last year with my husband. And this is the one thing that has changed me and my life more than anything. This is why I'm calling this course Becoming Unbreakable. Because so many of you feel, and I felt this way, that I was being broken, that my husband was breaking me, that what he was doing was breaking me. That's what it felt like. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to process it. And once I learned more about how to do it, I said, I have to teach women how to do this because they don't know and they are suffering unnecessarily, thinking that they're broken and they're not. And learning this skill is the skill that will change your life because it will enable you to confidently face all of the unknowns. This is how you don't have to fear triggers and relapses. This is how you don't have to fear going to the beach, anything that you see on TV, your husband looking at his phone, what he's thinking about during sex. This is how you do it. You process all of the emotion. This is how you trust him again. This is how you forgive him again. Because the things that are preventing you from doing those things are all emotions. I asked you guys this on Instagram and in emails the other day, and I've been having so many conversations about this over the last week. Where do you feel like you're stuck? Where's the place that you're stuck? 100% of you said an emotion. Anger, resentment. I feel like I can't forgive him because of the pain. I feel like I can't trust him again because of all of the times that I was hurt. Hurt, pain, anger, resentment, betrayal, bitterness. All of those are emotions, ladies. Those are the things that are keeping you stuck. And this is the best news ever because it means that the only thing in the way between where you are right now and where you want to go is your thoughts and your feelings. And you're getting really good at your thoughts, ladies, but you're missing the feelings part. You're missing the skill of processing your emotions. And that's what this is all about. This is how you become unbreakable because then you learn and how nothing outside of you can break you. You can feel broken, but the worst thing that can happen when you feel a feeling is you just feel it. And right now your brain is fighting that 100% of the way. Your brain doesn't want that to be true. Our brain wants to hold on to the pain. And that sounds so crazy, but it does, because that's what's familiar and comfortable, and it's afraid of what letting go of the pain means. What if I actually process my emotion and let it go? Does that mean I'm okay with it? What if I actually process this and let it go? Does that mean that he's just, I'm giving him permission to do it again? Am I just enabling him? Does it mean that I'm okay with it? Our brain has all of these objections, and all of that is just resistance to feeling the feelings it doesn't want to feel because it's afraid of feeling your feelings, only because it's never done it before. But if you come work with me next week, I will teach you exactly how to do it, and I will do it with you so that you don't have to do it by yourself. And that alone, if you do nothing else but come join this program, so for this week, it will change your life. You will come feeling broken and you will leave feeling unbreakable because you know how to handle any situation in your life, whether that's regarding any situation. Your husband relapsing, heaven forbid a child get ill, right? Losing a job, COVID happening 2.0, like who knows what's going to happen in the future. But if you know how to process your emotions, then there is nothing you can't handle because the suffering that you're feeling right now is optional. Bad things are going to happen. Things are going to happen that you're going to have a negative reaction to, and that is okay. when you know how to handle negative reactions, negative responses, negative emotions, then there's nothing to be afraid of. And that's what enables you to actually move forward. When you learn how to process your emotions, you can process all of the pain and let it go. This is how you go forward. That's why my program is called Go Forward, because we actually go through and we let go of the past. Because ladies, you've been suffering long enough. However long it's been, a day, a week, 25 years, however long you've been suffering, however long you've been carrying around this pain is too long. You've done it long enough. I am giving you permission to let it go, and I'm going to teach you how. Go to my website, jolenewind.com. You can go to the Becoming Unbreakable tab. You can join today, and I would highly encourage you to do so if you are ready to become unbreakable, if you are ready to finally let go of the past, if you are tired of feeling triggered, tired of feeling like you are just waiting for the next thing to break you, then this is for you. I think you're ready. This is the piece that you're missing. This is the piece that changes your life, and I want you to learn it. I'm here for you, ladies, and I love you so much, and I think it's time. I was talking to my husband this morning, and he said, you know what, Jolene? It's time. They're ready, and I completely agree. It is time, and you are ready, and you can sign up today, and I will help you completely transform and become unbreakable. I love you, ladies, so much. I'll see you guys next week inside. All right, ladies, it's time to rise up and take charge of your healing, and I have the best way for you to do it. I have created a lifetime access coaching program that I have designed specifically for you and exactly what you're going through right now. This is where I help you develop a personal mastery of all the tools that you're learning here on the podcast in order for you to create a permanent change. Go to my website, jolenewind.com. You will find all the information there, and you can sign up today, and we will start going forward. I can't wait to see you there.